In September of 2008, Sony Pictures officially announced that Spider-Man 4 was in the works. Principal photography was slated to commence in February of 2010, and the film was initially scheduled for release on May 6, 2011. Despite Sony's efforts to keep details under wraps, reliable sources confirmed that both Tobey Maguire and director Sam Raimi would reunite for the fourth installment. Sony Pictures finalized deals with the duo, who previously collaborated on the original Spider-Man trilogy. This development followed a tense negotiation period, during which Sony Pictures co-chairman Amy Pascal reportedly explored potential replacements for Maguire. According to insiders, Pascal was in talks with Hollywood agents as a contingency plan. Sony wanted Tobey back, but he wasn't immediately on board, one source revealed. Nevertheless, a Sony spokesperson later stated, "There was never anyone considered for the role but Tobey." In addition to Maguire's return as Peter Parker, Spider-Man 4 aimed to bring back several familiar faces. Kirsten Dunst, J.K. Simmons, and Bryce Dallas Howard were set to reprise their roles as Mary Jane Watson, J. Jonah Jameson, and Gwen Stacy, respectively. The film also promised exciting new villains. John Malkovich was cast as Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture. Malkovich confirmed the news on Italian TV, telling the host that the rumors were true and that, due to a delay in pre-production, he was still waiting for the final script to be sent to him. He also said he hoped shooting would begin as soon as possible. Anne Hathaway was set to play Felicia Hardy, aka Black Cat, and it was speculated by many that Dylan Baker would finally transform from Dr. Kurt Connors into the Lizard. Raimi had originally wanted the Vulture in Spider-Man 3. Ben Kingsley was said to be the director's choice for the role until the character was dropped in favor of Venom, a decision enforced by producer Avi Arad. Despite the financial success of Spider-Man 3, the film faced criticism for its convoluted plot and an overabundance of villains. Raimi, burdened by studio interference, felt Spider-Man 3 compromised his artistic vision. Determined to rectify this, he saw Spider-Man 4 as an opportunity for redemption, a chance to return to the storytelling and character depth that made Spider-Man 2 such a masterpiece of superhero cinema. Raimi intended to return to the tone and visual style of 1960s and early 1970s Marvel Comics, citing Steve Ditko's work as the primary source of inspiration. Additional returning cast members included Elizabeth Banks as Betty Brant, Bill Nunn as Robbie Robertson, and James Cromwell as George Stacy. Bruce Campbell, a Raimi regular, was reportedly in line to portray Mysterio, the film's secondary antagonist. Various sources would continue to peddle the incorrect rumor that Felicia Hardy would be Vulture's daughter and become the Vultress. And while this annoyed some quarters of the fan base, it was never true. Various drafts would be written with different storylines. One included Electro as a villain, one included Kraven the Hunter as a villain, and all included the Vulture. What we know to be verified about the plot across all three screenplays includes the following beats. The film was to open with a montage of minor characters from the Rogues Gallery. Spider-Man would defeat and apprehend in quick succession villains like Shocker, Stiltman, and an old-school version of the Rhino that was planned. These minor antagonists were intended to highlight Spider-Man's growing confidence and enjoyment in his heroic role. Without Mary Jane, Peter had found a new sense of peace and was enjoying his crime-fighting role as Spider-Man. Dave Lowery's storyboards reveal a sequence where Peter returns to his apartment only to be greeted with an eviction notice as the building has been condemned by the city and state of New York. Peter is then seen beside the curb holding his possessions. The film's first act would have included a major action set piece in a library. An army of goons would have tried to take down the Vulture, showcasing his power in a scene compared to the birth of Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. Raimi aimed to reimagine the Vulture as a more ruthless and modern character. The Vulture's wings were designed with razor-sharp feathers, which could flip out as deadly blades for close combat. The updated Vulture, Adrian Toomes, was a former government operative and private contractor who gained his name from the fact that he was someone who, during the course of his work, left, quote, nothing but bones behind, emphasizing his deadly efficiency. The creative team was determined to subvert expectations, transforming what might have been dismissed as an old guy in a silly green suit with feathers into one of Spider-Man's most fearsome and formidable foes. Raimi and his team worked hard to make the Vulture a truly menacing figure, one that would stand out as Spider-Man's most dangerous adversary yet. Details from the unreleased and cancelled Spider-Man 4 tie-in game reveal a newspaper article chronicling the murder of Gregory Bestman within the company HQ for Bestman and Toombs. The suspect was a half-bird, half-man predator, and police feared the mysterious Vulture had struck again. As an aside, comic book fans will recall that Bestman and Toombs Electronics is a New York City-based tech company founded by Adrian Toombs and Gregory Bestman. Within comics, Adrian used his intelligence to become an electrical engineer and inventor, which led him to co-found the small firm of Bestman and Toombs Electronics. His business partner, Gregory Bestman, saw to all administrative affairs. Toombs devoted the bulk of his time to his pet project, an electromagnetic harness that would enable its wearer to fly like a bird. However, this inattention to detail proved disastrous when it came to light that Bestman had been stealing Toombs' share of the company. Physically confronting Bestman, Toombs discovered that exposure to his electromagnetic harness had granted him superhuman strength. Other story beats in the screenplays included a thread in which the Daily Bugle was set to undergo a massive transformation. A massive multinational conglomerate resembling media giants like TMZ was poised to buy out the newspaper. Their plan was to modernize the Bugle into a sensationalist gossip outlet. J. Jonah Jameson was still a principled newsman, rooted in old-school journalism. Jameson would stand firm on the belief that news is news, and dismiss tabloid-style reporting as nonsense. This setup highlighted the clash between traditional journalism and the modern social media-driven approach to news. Actor J.K. Simmons told MTV, quote, J. Jonah Jameson was going to be somehow exiled or disgraced or demoted and end up in some little cubicle somewhere and be railing, even more than usual, against the world. I'm still reeling from the rug being pulled out from under us. I had just bought a house I can't afford. I had seen Sam a few weeks before that, and we talked about story ideas, because on those movies we always started on the script and we expanded on it. One of the major action sequences between Spider-Man and the Vulture was envisioned as an intense underground battle in the New York City subway tunnels. This fight would have escalated dramatically, bursting out from beneath the city and continuing into the skies above Manhattan. The final battle centered on a climactic aerial showdown set atop the T-shaped Citicorp Center on Lexington Avenue. The fight would have pushed Spider-Man to his limits, with the Vulture nearly killing him. Wounded and bleeding heavily, Spider-Man would have been on the brink of defeat and death. In a desperate, instinctive move, Peter would have managed to force the Vulture off the building. The villain's wings, damaged in the scuffle, would have failed, sending him plummeting to his death in the ether below. Following the death of the Vulture, the conflict at the Daily Bugle would eventually see Jameson pushed to the sidelines in the takeover bid. The twist would reveal that the executive spearheading the buyout was none other than the Vulture's daughter. Angelina Jolie was reportedly considered for the role, and storyboard artists were told to use her likeness. The film's final act. In scenes reminiscent of Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man would have been believed dead by the public following the battle. A massive public funeral would honor the fallen hero. Meanwhile, Peter Parker, grappling with the dual burden of his superhero responsibilities and his desire for a normal life, would have chosen to let the world continue thinking Spider-Man was gone. This decision would mark his resolve to step away from his alter ego and embrace his personal life, symbolized by his intention to marry and finally prioritize his own happiness. With regards to Black Cat, Anne Hathaway has since said that everything worked out for the best, as her casting may have cost her the role of Catwoman in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises. Raimi later stated he loved what she had done with her audition. Black Cat is a daring and confident cat burglar who thrives on being a constant complication in the life of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Whether acting as his adversary, ally, or something more ambiguous, Felicia is driven by the thrill of the heist and the adrenaline rush of outrunning anyone who dares to chase her. For her, it's all about achieving the impossible and stealing what others wouldn't dare attempt. She's a master thief, an acrobat of extraordinary skill, and possesses an intricate knowledge of the criminal underworld. It was said that Bruce Campbell, who had cameos in the previous 3 films, would play the brief role of Mysterio in the opening villains montage. This is something that Campbell has denied, outwardly saying it's just all online fanboy nonsense and is completely untrue. Although Sam Raimi has since said, quote, "I missed the really great cameo we had designed for Bruce Campbell. That was one of the possibilities. We had other things in mind too, but that was one of them." Raimi seemed to have one eye firmly on installments beyond Part 4, especially with the wide array of characters to choose from. Speaking in Los Angeles at an event to honor young directors, he said, quote, "I would love to see Electro, Vulture, maybe the Sinister Six as a team. The Lizard is also one of my favorite characters. But Spider-Man 4 will probably have to start with the central journey of the main character to arrive at the proper villain." Graphic designer and illustrator Kelly Yates was hired in 2009 to create character designs and accessories for the movie, which then, if utilized on screen, could possibly be turned into action figures and merchandise by Hasbro. For Electro, Yates came up with this design in which he is all energy with a conductor spine/skeleton that helps contain his energy in one place. His costume was a modernized electrical lineman worksuit, and he could fire electricity from his hands. For Yates's Vulture concept art, we see that the character's familiar wingspan retracts into a small backpack. The artist was also tasked with coming up for experimental ways for which Spider-Man could battle Vulture in the sky in times where regular web-slinging wouldn't cut it. Here, we see an Goblin design, where Parker can combine the weaponry of his previous foes into an all-in-one battle armor that would incorporate the Green Goblin's glider technology with Doc Ock's mechanical arms. The glider would be infused with a small Doc Ock matter generator that Spider-Man would then activate to return to the glider if he got too close to the ground. The so-called Spider Glider could also drop webs to catch the Vulture if needed. As well as the biological organic web shooters, Peter would fashion wrist cartridges that could use different types of web fluid to shoot various shapes, such as crystals, bombs, and trackers. Different chemical compounds would give Spider-Man a variety of new options in battle. Yates says that all he was told to work on was Electro, Vulture, and a suit that gets Spider-Man up high in the air. Here's 2 flight suit designs. One, which is a parachute contained in a backpack for emergencies, and an aerodynamic suit with counter-rotating blade wings. There's no saying if any such designs would make it to production stage, but it shows us how the filmmakers were looking to upgrade Spider-Man's arsenal as he takes on a foe that raises the stakes and is superior to anyone he's faced previously. As numerous fake script treatments and amateur story outlines began to circulate online, one of the screenwriters hired by Sony in 2008, David Lindsay Abair, responded to one such report to set the record straight. He wrote, quote, "I wouldn't normally respond to an article like this, but things can linger on the internet for years. And if I'm going to take some knocks online, I'd like to think they were based on a script that I actually wrote instead of some fan fiction that someone tacked my name onto. With that in mind, I wonder if you could at least update the article to add some kind of note saying that it's been confirmed that the script in question is not, in fact, by David Lindsay Abair. For what it's worth, my script was 122 pages and featured Kraven as the villain." Raimi also spoke of the possibilities for Kraven, saying, quote, "I missed Kraven the Hunter. We were going to work that character into the next Spider-Man. I always wanted to see Kraven fight Spider-Man on the big screen. I thought that would be really unique. He's the ultimate hunter, and Spider-Man is like the most agile trickster of the skies, and I wanted to see Peter continue forward as a human being." As merchandise was being considered in parallel to the movie's intended release date, we'd see what direction the designs and brand strategy for packaging and toys were heading in. These card backs were designed by creative director Christopher Metzger. The storyboard artists working on Spider-Man 4 were divided up into groups that worked on action set pieces, even though the script was still being finalized. Illustrator Jeffrey Henderson posted a number of concept art images on his website revealing what might have been. On planethenderson.com, he wrote, quote, Spider-Man 4. Of all the projects I've worked on, I get asked about this more often than anything else. I hope that one day I can, or somebody can, finally tell the whole story of Sam Raimi's abandoned fourth Spidey movie. Until then, out of respect for Sam and everyone that worked on or contributed to this project, let me just say this. It would have been one absolutely kick-ass movie. Seriously. We were working on some crazy cool stuff because everyone from top to bottom felt that Spidey 3 was a bit of a missed opportunity, and we all really wanted to help Sam take SM4 to another level so he could end the series on a high note. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. Sam is almost superstitious about releasing any storyboards for anything. I don't really know why, but that's just how he feels about it. So, having said that, here are some boards I can share from the mysterious Spider-Man 4. Several pieces of concept art for the Vulture used the likeness of John Malkovich, as the actor was in advanced negotiations to play the iconic character. Designer James Atchison knew the Vulture would have been the sequel's primary villain, and his team spent roughly 6 months crafting models off which costume designers and visual effects artists would have worked. Atchison said following the collapse of the production that, quote, "We did a lot of work. It was so sad. Sam's heart didn't really seem to be in it." Over a decade after Spider-Man 4 was shelved, we were given a tantalizing look at what the sequel might have brought to the screen. David E. Duncan, who worked on the project, shared a rare animatic on his Vimeo channel, offering a glimpse into the climactic battle between Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and John Malkovich's Adrian Toomes. This animatic, blending detailed storyboards with early pre-visualization animation, hints at an intense and raw take on the character. The animatic begins with a striking visual sequence. The Vulture hurls Spider-Man from a terrifying height, and in an innovative comic book-inspired move, Spider-Man uses his webbing to craft 2 web parachutes to break his fall. Although this maneuver doesn't fully save him from a hard landing, it is a fresh idea that has yet to appear on the big screen, showing the creative potential Raimi's team had in mind. The tone of the fight quickly intensifies, shifting into a visceral and harrowing close-quarters brawl. Spider-Man is repeatedly stabbed by a concealed wrist blade in the Vulture's armor, and each moment underscores the brutal stakes. This approach to combat was something fans hadn't yet seen in Raimi's Spider-Man films, pushing the character and the audience toward darker, grittier territory. The artist posted a description stating, quote, "One of a half-dozen animatics I produced for the ill-fated 4th Raimi Spider-Man. Studio politics, creative differences, and bad internet reactions to John Malkovich's Vulture caused the plug to be pulled December of 2009, early in the prep stage. However, 1 month later, Sony moved forward with the Andrew Garfield reboot." Duncan's animatic reveals just how ambitious Spider-Man 4 could have been. With a more intense, high-stakes story, the animatic hints at an epic showdown that would have brought a complex, dangerous edge to the Raimi-Maguire saga. The cancellation of Spider-Man 4 was the culmination of mounting frustrations, script delays, and creative disagreements that ultimately derailed what could have been Sam Raimi's swan song in the iconic franchise. The story began unfolding on December 11th, when an email sent to the film's special effects crew brought troubling news. The message, marked with an air of uncertainty, read, quote, "Hey there. We were just notified that our schedule's pushing. We will not be starting as planned. I'm terribly sorry for this news, and I hope this email reaches you in time to find other options. We do not know how long we are pushing, and we will not know until mid-January. By mid-January, we will be told how long the push is, whether it be 2 weeks, 2 months, or something else. The studio has every intention of making the movie, but we no longer have a confirmed start date. Again, I'm terribly sorry, but Sam Raimi has story issues that need to be resolved before we are ready to shoot." Behind the scenes, the problem was becoming increasingly clear. Raimi was deeply dissatisfied with the script. Over the course of pre-production, the screenplay had passed through the hands of Jamie Vanderbilt, David Lindsay-Abaire, and Gary Ross, yet none of their drafts met Raimi's standards. In fact, he reportedly, quote-unquote, hated the script, a sentiment he did not hesitate to express within Sony. By December, Raimi and the studio were pinning their hopes on screenwriter Alvin Sargent, who had successfully delivered on Spider-Man 2 and 3 and went uncredited on the first Spider-Man. Sargent's credentials and his connection to the franchise, in that he was married to producer Laura Ziskin, gave the studio some confidence. However, with time slipping away, even Sony insiders acknowledged that the planned release date of May 11, 2011 was becoming unrealistic. An email from Sony insiders reflected the growing urgency. It read, quote, "Some decisions have been made over the holiday about Spider-Man 4. We will be extending the production hiatus on the film. The studio is firmly committed to this franchise, but for us, the script must come first. We intend to notify members of the crew immediately. As you know, Alvin Sargent is currently working on the screenplay. When we have more news, we will keep you posted." Filming, originally scheduled to begin in February, was initially pushed to March, then late March or early April, and eventually postponed indefinitely. Tobey Maguire, still attached to star as Peter Parker, had publicly echoed the February start date. But as delays piled up, the studio privately conceded that even a summer 2011 release might be out of reach. At the heart of the delays was Sony's determination to get the script right. Studio co-chair Amy Pascal and Columbia Pictures president Matt Tolmach, who had guided the franchise since its inception, were unwilling to greenlight production without a solid script. Pascal, known for her strong-willed approach, reportedly told her team, quote, "I'm going to do everything I can to make May, but I'm not going to start a movie where the script isn't right yet, not unless I want my career to be over." For Raimi, who had already felt constrained by studio interference during Spider-Man 3, this project represented a chance for redemption. He wanted to deliver a film on his own terms, free of compromise. However, the combined weight of script troubles and the ticking clock ultimately made this vision unattainable. By January 11th of 2010, Raimi made the difficult decision to step away, officially ending his historic run with the Spider-Man franchise. Following the cancellation, Tobey Maguire released a statement reading, quote, "I am so proud of what we accomplished with the Spider-Man franchise over the last decade. Beyond the films themselves, I have formed some deep and lasting friendships. I am excited to see the next chapter unfold in this incredible story." Actor J.K. Simmons would express sadness at not getting the chance to revisit the role of Jameson. He would later say, quote, "After Sam Raimi's trilogy, when we moved on from there, it was heartbreaking, not gonna lie. I thought, oh well, that was amazing fun, and I was so glad I had that opportunity." During an interview promoting Scream, Vanderbilt, who later worked on The Amazing Spider-Man and its sequel, talked about Spider-Man 4. According to the writer, the script for Raimi's fourth Spider-Man film was completely done before its cancellation. He said, quote, "Yeah, so Spider-Man 4, we had a full script sort of ready to go. And as is sort of the case when you're a working feature writer, they brought in some other great writers to punch it up. They changed some things, and I think about a year later they got to a point where, and I don't know why, but they got to a point where they decided that wasn't the road they were going to go down." Raimi later shared some insights into why Part 4 never happened, saying, quote, "We had a script years ago, and we were actively working in pre-production. It became a thing where there was a deadline, and I didn't want to make something that was less than great. I thought I had compromised a bit on Spider-Man 3, and I wanted to really pay the audience back on Spider-Man 4 and make the best Spider-Man of all, and I couldn't get the script together in that amount of time. So I told Sony, I think it's best if you go ahead with your planned alternate Spider-Man storyline because I don't want to let the audience down." Well, if supposed industry insiders and alleged trusted sources are to be believed, we can piece together various whispers to the press and conclude the following. Despite the franchise's success, the fourth installment faced mounting script issues under director Sam Raimi. After cycling through 3 different writers, the script was still, in the words of a production insider, a schizophrenic mess. Raimi's storyline, which saw Peter Parker moving on from MJ, falling in love with a new woman, and clashing with her father, the villainous Vulture, left studio executives cold. The film's dark tone, culminating in Peter abandoning his Spider-Man identity, was deemed too risky for a franchise so reliant on family-friendly appeal. Beyond narrative concerns, there were significant commercial worries. Hasbro, Sony's toy partner, balked at the idea of a villain lacking youthful appeal, while the consumer products division feared the story's potential impact on merchandise sales. As Jeff Gomez, CEO of Starlight Runner Entertainment, noted, successful franchises demand long-term planning and continuity, elements missing from Spider-Man since its second film. Even with plans to bring back veteran screenwriter Alvin Sargent for rewrites, Raimi doubted his ability to deliver a polished film by Sony's tight deadline. Frustrated and unconvinced, he walked away, leaving Sony to scramble for a new summer blockbuster. Ultimately, the studio may have been relieved to shed a project burdened by high creative and financial stakes, with both Raimi and star Tobey Maguire commanding significant portions of the film's gross, and no clear vision of the story they wanted to tell. The fallout from the cancellation paved the way for Sony's reboot, The Amazing Spider-Man, but it left fans wondering what could have been. Raimi's bold ideas for Spider-Man 4 remained an unfinished chapter in the cinematic history of the web-slinger. As for whether he would like to work alongside Maguire on a new Spider-Man 4, Raimi responded, quote, "I didn't think it was possible, but after jumping back in with the multiverse, I realized that anything is possible now, so I'm completely open to it." Thanks for watching.
What's Spider-Man 4? Where's that at?
Sony is definitely making Spider-Man 4 with Amy Pascal as the chairwoman of Columbia Pictures leading the charge, and I'm hoping they'll come to me first as the director. I know that there's a screenwriter writing the script, but either way, I'm hoping to be one of the producers on the picture, and I'm very excited to read the script.
There was that famous Spider-Man movie that sounded like very close to happening. You were in it. I think this was Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
He was doing a fourth one. It was you, John Malkovich. I don't know if Angelina Jolie was officially on or not. And it was sounded pretty far down that path. And I wonder if that movie gets made, if Dark Knight Rises and Catwoman happen for you.
That's how I hold it. The way I hold it is if that movie had gotten made, I don't know if I would have been considered, because I don't know if he would have said, no, she's occupied in another universe. And so that's why as an actor, you don't know this on day one, but you learn to just go that, you know what? The right role finds the right person, and sometimes it's you and sometimes it's not. And so when it doesn't happen, just trust deeper and keep going. Just keep going.
Did you get into costume? Like, how close did that come?
Did not get into costume and did not read a script past the audition sites.
Got it. But again, at the time, probably exciting, but
I got the part, and and it just, I think that that's probably more the producer's story to tell than mine.
Right.
You know what I mean? If should they ever decide to tell it, because the Spider-Man universe has gone on to be so enormous and so thrilling.
Yeah.
And it's just reinventing itself and all of those things. So I wouldn't want to make more of it than is necessary.
And does doing the two pictures in between prepare you to jump back into the giant machinery of doing a fourth movie?
Yeah, it's great. And
does it change your perspective? Is it different going in, or?
Well, it's always different. I
Yeah,
mean, each movie's different. We evolve as people, all of that. At the same time, there are certain dynamics and relationships that have continuity. Sam and myself, Sam Raimi, the director, and we have a certain banter or dynamic that's fun and funny, and I love collaborating with him. So there's some familiarity that I really love, and also I like the new. And okay, how do we press this? How do we make it more exciting, more fun? How do we evolve the character and make it a rich story? And how do I make it interesting for myself to go do something else? So yeah, I appreciate that too. I have fun with those movies. I really do.
That there was a plan for a fourth Spider-Man, There was.
And they said that the villain was going to be Mysterio.
Mysterio.
And they said that you were going to play Mysterio and that there would be a connective layer of tissue that, as it turned out, all three of those characters were the same person. All three were Mysterio, and that you, as Mysterio, Bruce Campbell, had been surveilling Spider-Man from his inception.
That's pretty good.
The entire time. This is the rumor that I read.
Yeah, that's completely insane, but that's pretty good. Basically, you don't even need Mysterio. That was a storyboard that leaked that looked like me in the drawing.
Oh, so they saw...
that's Bruce Campbell as Mysterio. Look, it's proof. Storyboard 27801A.
So that didn't come to pass.
Kirsten Dunst, I've talked to her, and she's very excited to come back, and we're working on who the bad people are going to be that Peter Parker has to battle this time. I'm going to try and make it more intimate, find the heart of what made Spider-Man great originally in the comic books. I'm going to try and return to the central core of the character that I fell in love with, and in that way, I'll try and make it better.
You know, everybody's intention is to get it out for 2011. We're totally in process in terms of the development of the story, and you know, there's really good stuff there, and you know, like anything, it's a process, and you know, we're just in the midst of the process, and we have a lot of great stuff in terms of story and script, and we're just trying to dial it in and get it ready as quickly as possible. And of course, these movies are, you know, a very big undertaking and take a lot more time than, you know, a drama or something, you know, straightforward, just, you know, prep in however many, 10, 12 weeks, go shoot it for 10 weeks and post it and you're done. I mean, it's massive. It's several times a regular film in that way.
Well, you can't spend your whole life going, I wish I could have played the Lizard. But there's a little part of me that does. Let me tell you. I mean, I'm good friends with Alfred Molina, and the fact that he got to do Doc Ock and the whole thing and create that, the thought of being able to do that with Sam Raimi. Yes, that would have been incredible, and I know that he had that in his vision. He talked about it all the time, that when we got to the Lizard, so that setting things in motion, and this, it should be here, it should be here, and there's what is it about Dr. Connors that leads him in that way, and what is it that we, you know, start setting up along the way. So I know he would have done an incredibly nuanced, layered blueprint for Dr. Connors becoming the Lizard.